easy. Everybody get it? Anybody miss it? All right, it's like church. Come down front. Okay, it's very easy. Now, we can't circle up in here. At some point in the semester, we might have to move this class to somewhere where we can sit in a circle. I don't know where the hell it's going to be on this thing. But outside? Do you realize how big a circle that will be? I feel like when y'all pledge, you got 50 million people online, you make a circle, and then everybody has to step on the steps at Lock and Fine Arts to see you because it's all took the whole yard. Okay. I'll write this 3 up here. Chapter 3. Thank you. You see how it happens? That was an eloquent summary of that. First of all, working class, non-natives. When you bring in non-natives, in this case the Irish, it antagonizes the people who were there. And when you see racism, it's a transfer of the formation of these class sensibilities, bringing in outsiders and non-outsiders, between outsiders and non-outsiders. You want yours back? You want yours back? You sure? Yes, your joint right here. I ain't gonna sit there. All right. I might sit there again. Maybe not. Probably not. But there's an interjection. Every time you interject a foreign group in, it shifts. And this is the practice that is extended in Europe. Now, when you bring in black people, it makes it even more difficult. Now, the question, essay question, state the conceptual theses of black Marxism and analyze their veracity. We're not going to talk about black Marxism, the theses, beyond the part 1. Because part 1 is going to include the introduction, the front matter, and the first several chapters. Let's go to the end of chapter 3, which is on what? Social theory and nationalism, and I haven't forgot where we left off Thursday, as relates to the question that probably 20 or 30 minutes from the end of class Jay raised in regard to the first and second bourgeoisies in Europe, and how that second bourgeoisie formed, and what were the relations between them that led to that. But if we look at, beginning on page 65, what is the bold heading on the bottom of page, near the bottom of page 65? Conclusion. We're going to use that today to open up everything that came before. And then on Thursday, that will allow folks who haven't read up to there to read up, because we're going to do lightning question and answer and demonstrate our familiarity with this text. Now, let me stop there. We'll go to chapter 3, I think. Yeah, 3. Yeah, because that's going to take, because chapter 4 begins part 2. Right? We know this is in 3 parts. Part 2 is what we're trying to get to. But we can't get to part 2 without going to part 1 and why is that conceptually? Why again? What is the basic thesis? What is this thesis as it relates to black Marxism? Let's work through this together. Right now, we're going to pretend that nobody knows anything about this book, and we're going to state these theses from the vantage of those who've read something to somebody who says, I don't know what the hell is going on here. And I know there's at least one person in here. There's at least one, perhaps more, who slightly is like, I don't know. I'm present, I read, after the first word, I said, the second word, I said, why? The third word, I was like, okay, I'm going to keep going because I'm a soldier and I don't feel bad and my grandma waiting on me and all these other motivational speeches this nigga gonna be giving. And then after the first page, he said, what the hell? Let me go back. And you went back to the first word. Every time, diminishing self-esteem, dignity, pride, until at some point, some of you reduced to thinking, why am I in college at all? Begin to realize just how undereducated you are. I'm sorry. I'm referring to myself the first time I tried to do it. But that having been said, not this book, but certainly a book, we've all felt that way in other words. I wasn't talking about you, I'm talking about myself. I'm talking about anybody the first time you try to do something. Okay? So I'm with you. So somebody here is thinking, I didn't want to open my mouth because I just knew that everybody, or at least them people who know what they're talking about, would look at me like I'm crazy. Not true. Maybe true, who cares? About that one person in here who would be that crazy. And it's not going to be me or anybody else just about, so don't worry about it. Ask the question that you have in your mind. Now what I've been trying to do is go to select moments in the text and read backward. And I promise you, Today, oh God. Yeah, faculty sending me today. They're over there now. I emailed them and said, I can't meet. Got classes 3:40, Tuesday and Thursday. So what they did, they said the meeting at 3:30. I'm going back over there at 5, maybe a few minutes before. But I raise it to say that there's nobody on this campus with a brain any better or any worse than anybody in this room. So we just got to figure out the magic way to get there. Now the easy thing to do would be, I ain't explaining nothing. Everybody go off and write something and then rip apart every paper. That would be easier for you. More painful for me. And it would take me the rest of the semester. So, let's just stop all that and get to the point. Conclusion, page 65. Let's do this slowly, a little differently. What does word mean? One more time? Summary, closing. Let's use the word summary. Summary. What then do you think that this couple of pages at the end of chapter 3 is going to summarize? The prior chapter. Anything else? The prior part 1. So, we're going to look at these pages as the key to unlocking the theses in the pages that precede. And by theses, what do we mean? Main points. Main points. Main ideas. Not the subsidiary ideas. Beautifully phrased. Beautifully phrased. The English working class. The interaction between the English and the Irish working class, discussed in chapter 2 primarily, and then carried over, well, 1 and 2, but can carry over and made implications of part 3. In chapter 3 is about the relationship between non-natives and natives in a system that is emerging as a capitalist system. But if you don't understand what working class is, not just people who work, but as a class definition in a larger conversation about the C word, capitalism, then that's when the I's start crossing, because you don't have a context to have context clues for. So we're going to use this conclusion, this summary, to talk about the main points and ideas, because at the core of Robertson's thesis is concepts like racial capitalism. That's one. Let's go. Conclusion. I'm going to use this board. Before we go any further, anybody have any suggestions on how, as we're about to undertake this process, it might be more effective? Say it again?
So the way to make it more effective.
Yeah, more effective. I guess we haven't started yet, so we might not know. Okay, I'm going to say what Monroe Trotter said at the turn of the century, around 1898, or 1898? Maybe it was a little bit after that. No, maybe around 1912. Yeah, anyway, when Booker T. Washington was wrecking shop over black intellectual and political leadership, having been ensconced as the leader of the Negroes by white philanthropists. Monroe Trotter, in his newspaper, The Guardian, writing from Boston, wrote an editorial with 3 words, followed by a question mark. Why be silent? This Negro was wrecking shop. Du Bois, Ida, are your knees all knocking together? Why be silent? Raise questions. I ask you a century later, well, 80-some years later, 90 years later, the same question. If we start talking in here and you don't get it, why be silent? Stop this Negro. And in so doing, save your colleagues. All right. Conclusion. Everybody clear so far? Y'all good back there? Can you hear me? I'll be losing my voice. Among the several curious and unhappy legacies in